Composition is an important part of photography. High-end camera gears can certainly ease up the process of taking a stunning image, but a perfect composition takes more than that. It requires an observant eye, technical expertise, patience, and experience. You can make an average-looking subject a bit more interesting with the help of some fundamental photographic rules. The rule of thirds is one of those easy-to-grasp and use techniques that are widely used in photography. So in this video, we are going to discuss about the rule of thirds in photography, and you can use it to get a perfect composition for your image. So without further ado, let's jump in. The rule of thirds is pretty straightforward to understand. To apply it in your photography, you need to divide the entire frame using 2 horizontal and 2 vertical lines, creating 9 blocks in the frame. Where those 2 vertical and horizontal lines intersect, we'll have 4 intersecting points. According to the rule of thirds, if you place your main subject on those points, the whole composition would look more interesting and lively. As most of the cameras have an inbuilt rule of thirds guide, you can easily use this feature to apply the rule of thirds in your composition. The rule of thirds is heavily used by all types of photographers as it is a proven rule for producing eye-catchy. But the question is, how does it work? Well, when you place your subject in the middle of the frame, it signifies as a static object to your brain, and the viewer's eyes are forced to keep the concentration on the center part. After observing the center position, the eyes are left without a clue about where to look next, as the distance from the subject from both the left and right parts is the same. This leads to confusion and the viewer loses interest in the image very soon. On the other hand, if the subject is placed on the intersecting points of the rule of thirds, there is more space in either of the edges. So after observing the subject, the viewer's eyes are automatically drawn to the larger portion of the edge. This leads the viewer to find more things in the frame and thus spending more time observing your image. This is why you should use the rule of thirds in most of your compositions. As we have understood how the rule of thirds can enhance viewers' interaction with the image, now let's discuss how you can use it in your composition. The key here is placing the most important part of the composition on the intersecting parts of the frame. For example, when shooting portraits, the most important part is the subject itself or the subject's eyes, and placing them on the intersecting points will result in more dynamic composition. You can also apply the same rule for landscape photography by placing the main element on the intersecting point. It will give more depth to the picture. However, there are some compositions where you don't really need to have a main subject. Rather, there are some distinguishing portions in the scene. For example, this picture consists of 2 major portions, the mountains and the sky. If you ignore the rule of thirds and give each portion the same amount of space in the frame, the image looks a little flat. On the other hand, if you keep the upper line of the mountains in the lower horizontal line and assign 2/3 of the space to the sky, the image instantly starts looking much better and the viewer has more things to observe now. The rule of thirds is also used in post-production. Cropping the background or adding it to push the subject to either left or right edge is a common practice in post-production. Of course you can break the rule of thirds, but before that, we need to understand it very well. Because if you know where to use it, you automatically get a hint of where not to use it. The rule of thirds creates interest by placing things asymmetrically. But in case when you need to focus on the symmetrical side of the composition, placing the subject in the center and breaking the rule of thirds is justified. For example, in almost all the pictures of the Taj Mahal, situated in India, the main monument is placed in the center of the frame. It is because Taj Mahal is the symbol of symmetrical establishment. Thus, putting it in the center communicates that symmetrical feeling to the viewers. There are many other situations where the rule of thirds shouldn't be applied. For example, a composition with shallow depth of field. Because of the background bokeh, there's nothing to look at in the background. So the main focus should be given to the subject only, and you can achieve that by placing the subject in the middle of the frame. So that was all about the rules of thirds used in photography. Hope you have a clearer insight of this rule and its usage now. But bare understanding would do no good unless you practice it for quite some time to get a full grasp of it. So take your camera and keep shooting. And if you have anything to add about this topic, let us know in the comment section.